She stood in the pharmacy doorway and watched her friend walk away. She'd just made a phone call, given them the location, set everything in motion, and now she was watching, waiting, knowing exactly what was coming next. By the time the sun rose again, her friend would be dead, thrown 42 feet through the air by a car turned into a murder weapon. And the most chilling part? She'd attend the funeral, cry with the family, play the devastated friend, all over £60. If cases like this grip you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. You need to hear how this ends. November 18th, 2019. Blackburn, England. A cold Monday night. Alison McBlain, 36, was desperate. A mother to a 12-year-old son. A woman drowning in addiction. And tonight, she was about to make the worst decision of her life. Her partner, Christian Rivers, 28, was right there with her. Same addiction, same desperation, same terrible plan. They were going to rob their dealer. Here's what you need to understand about street-level drug operations. There's one unwritten rule that everyone knows. One line you never, ever cross. You do not steal from your supplier, because it's never about the money. It's about respect. It's about power. It's about sending a message that echoes through the streets. But Alison and Christian, they were too desperate to care. They walked into a shop, found a payphone, dialed the number they'd called dozens of times before. The Bully Line, a local drug operation run by 26-year-old John Chatwood. Ruthless, organized, unforgiving. Alison placed the order, £60 worth of crack, cocaine, and heroin. Then they waited. Minutes later, 19-year-old Caleb Connolly arrived. Young, confident. Just another delivery. He handed over the package, and that's when Alison and Christian struck. They grabbed the drugs and ran. No payment, no negotiation, just theft. Connolly's phone was ringing before he even caught his breath. John Chatwood picked up, listened, and then silence. The kind of silence that means someone's about to pay. Within the hour, word was spreading through Blackburn streets. £60 bounty. Drugs or cash for information. Find them. Alison and Christian had just marked themselves for death, and someone very close to Alison was listening. November 19th, 2019, 7:45 p.m., 24 hours after the robbery. Alison needed her methadone prescription, one of the few stable things in her chaotic life. She headed to the pharmacy on King Street. Christian stayed outside, kept watch, trying to stay alert despite the fear gnawing at both of them. But they weren't being careful enough. Standing outside that pharmacy was someone Alison knew well, someone she trusted completely. Karis Poynton, 28 years old, fellow addict and friend. The two women smiled at each other, chatted. "How are you doing? What's going on?" Just normal friend stuff. But Karis was thinking about something else. She was thinking about the bounty, about the drugs she could get, about the favor she could earn with the Bully Line. She was thinking about £60. Alison finished collecting her prescription, said goodbye to Karis, started walking away. She had no idea what happened next. Before we go any further, if this story has you hooked, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. This case gets darker, and you need to see where it goes. Karis walked back into the pharmacy, picked up the phone, dialed. Security cameras captured every second. She gave them Alison's exact location. King Street, walking north, with her partner. And then, this is the part that makes your blood run cold. Karis walked to the pharmacy doorway, and she just watched. She watched Alison walk away, completely unaware, completely vulnerable, heading straight into an ambush. Karis knew what was coming. She knew what she'd just done, and she watched anyway. The call reached Caleb Connolly's phone, the same runner who'd been robbed, the one who'd been humiliated in front of the entire operation. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his car keys, made 3 calls, and within minutes, he had his crew. Dean Kayum, 21. Joshua Titterington, 27. A 16-year-old boy who cannot be named for legal reasons. 4 men. 1 Fiat Punto. 1 target. They climbed into the car, Connolly behind the wheel, and they headed straight for King Street. By now, Alison had reunited with Christian. The couple walked side by side, discussing their next move. Where to go, how to stay safe. Neither of them noticed the car turning onto their street. Neither of them saw the headlights. Because there were no headlights. Connolly spotted them, walking together, exposed, vulnerable. He made his decision. He switched off the car's headlights. Complete darkness, no warning. Then he turned the steering wheel hard to the left. The Fiat Punto mounted the pavement, and Connolly pressed the accelerator to the floor. The car struck them at terrifying speed. Christian was thrown to the ground, serious injuries to his hands and feet, but somehow, he managed to stagger upright. Alison wasn't so lucky. The impact launched her 42 feet down the road, her body tumbling through the air before crashing onto the cold pavement. She landed motionless, silent, broken. Witnesses screamed. People ran toward them. 1 man knelt beside Alison while Christian stumbled closer, disoriented and bleeding. He looked down at his partner. Then he looked at the stranger trying to help her. And Christian said something that would haunt everyone who heard it. "Look after her. I can't hang around." Then he walked away. Not because he didn't care, but because he knew this wasn't an accident. He knew the bully line had found them, and he knew if he stayed, they'd finish what they started. He stumbled into a nearby takeaway, refused to speak to anyone. Not the workers, not the police. No one. He was too terrified to stay, too injured to run. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They found Alison in what they would later describe as catastrophic condition. More than 20 separate injuries across her entire body. Broken bones, internal bleeding, skull fractures, brain trauma. They worked desperately at the scene, stabilizing, treating, praying. Then they rushed her to Royal Blackburn Hospital and placed her in critical care. Machines breathed for her. Monitors tracked her failing vitals. Doctors tried everything. But deep down, everyone in that room knew the truth. If you're as gripped by this case as I am, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story isn't over yet. Meanwhile, Connolly and his passengers didn't wait around to see the damage. The moment the car struck Alison and Christian, they fled. They drove roughly a mile away to a secluded alleyway, abandoned the Fiat Punto, then scattered on foot in different directions. Within 30 minutes, they'd all regrouped at one location, John Chatwood's house. They discussed what happened, what to do next, how to cover their tracks, and they quickly agreed on one thing. That car had to disappear. Connolly and another gang member returned to the alleyway. They doused the Fiat Punto's interior with accelerant, struck a match, and watched the flames consume the vehicle. They thought they'd destroyed the evidence. They thought they'd gotten away with it. They were wrong. Police were already reviewing CCTV footage from King Street. And within the first hour, they knew something critical. This was no accident. The way the car mounted the pavement, the way it accelerated directly at the victims, the way the headlights were deliberately switched off. This was attempted murder. Premeditated, calculated, cold. Then came the breakthrough that would crack the case wide open. A traffic officer on patrol spotted smoke rising from a narrow alleyway. He approached carefully and found the Fiat Punto, still smouldering, interior gutted by fire, but not completely destroyed. The gang had made a critical mistake. Inside the burnt-out footwell, one of the few areas the flames hadn't reached, investigators found something that had survived: a partially scorched shopping receipt, a chocolate wrapper, small details, tiny clues. But in murder investigations, small details solve cases. The receipt showed store name, pound stretcher, transaction time, location. Detectives pulled CCTV from the store. And there he was, Caleb Connolly, getting out of the driver's side of the Fiat Punto, wearing the exact same clothes he wore when dumping and burning the vehicle. The front passenger was even easier. He'd recently injured his foot and was on crutches. CCTV showed him hobbling away from the scene. Hospital records confirmed his identity within hours. The investigation was moving fast, and the arrests were coming. Using CCTV from around the area where the car was abandoned, detectives began tracing the gang's movements. Every camera, every angle, every second. And the trail led them directly to John Chatwood's house. By the next morning, Chatwood was in handcuffs, the first arrest. But several suspects were still outstanding, and one name hadn't surfaced yet: the informant, the person who'd given them Alison's location. November 21st, 2019. 2 days after the attack, Alison McBlain was surrounded by family. Her 12-year-old son, Reagan, sat beside her bed, holding her hand, hoping for a miracle. But her injuries were too severe, the trauma too extensive. The machines keeping her alive were doing all the work now. And then, the monitors went flat. Alison McBlain was pronounced dead. A mother, a daughter, a friend, gone because of £60. Her death changed everything legally. What started as attempted murder was now a murder investigation. And the people responsible, their charges had just become life sentences. Shortly after Alison's death, police received a phone call. A woman, anonymous, number blocked. She claimed to have information about the attack. She said she'd been with Alison moments before it happened, but she refused to give her name. Detectives worked carefully, gently, building trust, persuading her to talk. Eventually, she identified herself: Karis Poynton. Let that sink in. Officers traced Karis to her home and arrested her on the spot. And here's the part that makes investigators' blood boil to this day. Karis had attended Alison's funeral. She'd stood there in black, crying, hugging Alison's family members, consoling her 12-year-old son, playing the devastated friend, all while knowing she was the reason Alison was dead. She'd hidden her involvement for weeks, lived with that secret, attended the memorial service, until guilt, or fear of being caught, finally broke her. She was charged with murder and remanded in custody. Preston Crown Court. 5 weeks of testimony. Christian Rivers took the stand. The survivor, the second victim. He told the jury everything. The robbery, the fear. The moment that car came out of nowhere with its headlights off. His testimony was crucial, and it was devastating. The 16-year-old passenger, who cannot be named for legal reasons, also testified. His story was complicated. He admitted being in the back seat of the Fiat Punto. He confirmed Caleb Connolly was driving. Dean Kayum and Joshua Titterington were also in the car. But he claimed he had no idea what was about to happen. Joshua Titterington brought a knife into the car and was stroking it. Titterington threatened to kill him if he spoke to police. After the attack, Titterington shouted, "We're all going to jail." He claimed he didn't know Connolly was a drug dealer. He said he felt intimidated and scared. The jury would have to decide whether they believed him. If this case is keeping you on the edge of your seat, share this video right now. Cases like this need to be told, and your support helps us bring more stories to light. After 5 weeks of evidence, hundreds of pieces of CCTV footage, phone records, forensic analysis, witness testimony, the jury reached their verdicts. Dean Kayum, 21 years old, guilty of murder and attempted murder. Caleb Connolly, 19 years old, guilty of murder and attempted murder. Joshua Titterington, 27 years old, guilty of murder and attempted grievous bodily harm. Karis Poynton, 28 years old, guilty of murder and attempted grievous bodily harm. John Chatwood, 26 years old, guilty of manslaughter. The 16-year-old boy, acquitted on all charges. The jury believed his story, or at least had reasonable doubt. February 24, 2021, more than a year after Alison's death. Judge Sir Peter Openshaw stood before the defendants at Preston Crown Court. His words were scathing. This was a calculated, premeditated attack. You used a car as a weapon of murder. You drove in darkness with your headlights off, giving your victims no warning, no chance to escape. Alison McBlain was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and you took her life over £60. Dean Kayum, life imprisonment, minimum 20 years before parole eligibility. Joshua Titterington, life imprisonment, minimum 17.5 years before parole eligibility. Caleb Connolly, life imprisonment, minimum 14 years before parole eligibility. Karis Poynton, life imprisonment, minimum 13 years before parole eligibility. John Chatwood, 14 years for manslaughter, combined minimum sentences, 78.5 years behind bars. The gavel fell, the defendants were led away, and Alison's family finally had justice. But justice doesn't bring her back. Let's be clear about what really killed Alison McBlain. Yes, she made a desperate, reckless decision. She stole £60 worth of drugs from a violent gang. Yes, that theft set off a chain reaction. But here's what actually ended her life. Betrayal. Not the gang members who were already hunting for her. Not John Chatwood who ordered the hit. Not even Caleb Connolly who drove that car straight at her. It was Karis Poynton, her friend, the woman she smiled at outside that pharmacy. Karis had options. She could have warned Alison to run, told her about the bounty, kept silent, walked away. Instead, she picked up a phone, made a call, and watched her friend walk toward her death. For what? Some drugs, some cash, a favor with a gang that would forget her name within a week. Detective Chief Inspector Lee Wilson said it best. Poynton played a key role. She saw the victims and made a phone call to the bully line with their location. She knew full well they were the targets of a revenge attack when she made the call. Alison McBlain left behind a 12-year-old son named Reagan, a boy who watched his mother die in a hospital bed, a boy who will grow up without her because his mother's friend sold her out. Christian Rivers survived physically, but the trauma, the survivor's guilt, the knowledge that he walked away while Alison died alone, those scars never heal. This case exposes the brutal reality of county lines drug operations across the UK, organised crime groups that recruit vulnerable young people, use violence and intimidation to control territory, will kill over perceived disrespect, destroy entire communities. £60. That's what Alison's life was worth to them. Not enough to fill a gas tank. And the weapon? Not a gun. Not a knife. A Fiat Punto turned into a 2-ton battering ram. This case should force us to ask uncomfortable questions. How do we address the drug crisis that drives people to desperate decisions? How do we dismantle gang structures that prey on vulnerable communities? How do we recognize when someone we know is being exploited or drawn into criminal activity? Because cases like this, they're not anomalies. They're happening in cities, across the UK, across the world. Right now, the names change, the locations change, but the pattern stays the same. Sometimes the most dangerous person in your life isn't the obvious enemy. It's not the gang member. It's not the dealer. It's not the stranger in the shadows. It's the friend standing right next to you. The one who smiles at you. The one who knows where you'll be. The one who picks up the phone when you walk away. Alison McBlain trusted Karis Poynton, and that trust killed her.